I clearly remember that I thought it was really exciting that you could have this much power on a machine like a Macintosh back then, because I had been using software on big hardware equipment, very expensive hardware equipment, and then along comes Photoshop, and it's easy to use, and these guys walk in the door and show us this toy that I just thought was incredible. And I was looking at it not so much from a photographer's point of view, but from a graphic designer's point of view at that time. And so I saw it as a graphic and print tool. That's what Photoshop was to me when I first saw it. It had nothing to do with, photographers shot on film, and we had to scan things into Photoshop at that time. There were no digital cameras, and so I didn't have the vision, but I think John Warnock had the vision. He knew that it was going to go great places. I saw the moment, I lived in the moment. I was a graphic designer and I was happy. But then we got bigger and better scanners, flatbed scanners, and just a few cameras started coming out. And then finally, the first digital Kodak camera came out. And we put on a whole seminar around it, trying to attract photographers. And as you may recall, in the early days, it was like, no way, get back. I'm not going to even consider a digital camera. I will always, I can hear this quote, I will always use film. I will never, ever change to digital. They quickly changed when the quality came up. And then that area expanded. So Photoshop has grown because of the market has grown and more people are using it. So now we had graphic design and printing, and then we had photography, and then we have illustration now with the painting capabilities, and even forensics, police departments, professionals using it all different angles, architects. Everybody wants it to become the tool for their occupation, but in fact Photoshop is made for everybody, and it has to be this thing that can suit everybody's needs, from an architect to a photographer, and so it can get complicated. And that's why it is so complicated. The question is, why does Photoshop have to be so complicated? Because professionals are demanding it to be so complicated. And if you're asking why it's so complicated, you should be using Photoshop Elements instead. That's why we made Elements. I suppose you could say the undiscovered country. I continually say this every year. I'm always amazed at what I think is a complete application. We've got everything. Everything you'd ever want is in Photoshop. I'm going, that's it. There's no more. We can't go anymore. And then the programmers come up with something amazing. Yet another fantastic feature that I can't live without. I'm going, okay, can't And so that's I think there's, at Adobe, we've got such amazing, smart programmers that are always challenging themselves to come up with something new, and we're always looking for new technologies. As you can see, we're looking to, in this case, the University of Washington. Some students had been doing some research with patching, and you saw some of that technology in this morning's presentation. So you're finding young, genius people programming, doing things with imagery, and you have them join the team, or you bring those experiments into the mix, and yet there's something new. There's something new that we can't live without. I think you'll see new technologies that we didn't know we needed that, and I think we're going to see more and more technologies related to camera raw, and I think we could both agree on that one. That I think that's where that's where I feel it's going. And when I first saw Camera Raw, I knew, that's the first time I knew that that was going to really be something special. I'm finding myself using Camera Raw more and more as a Photoshop within a Photoshop. Non-destructive, saved in your DNG file, compact. It's like your little darkroom where you get to save the versions of your different prints. That's, I bet that's where the future is. If the future is non-destructive, the future is non-destructive and Camera Raw. I think that's where it's going. More and more. But then there's always that person like myself, an evil person, who wants to go and manipulate something and alter it with the Adobe application called Photoshop. Yeah, so you had to promote PostScript in the early days by showing off the fact that it could deal with graphics, text, and images. And so that's what I was integrating into it. My first scanner in Adobe was the size of a large refrigerator on its side, and you put things into this scanner and it would scan a huge, this giant, just huge, and it would send the black and white information off to the computer mainframe, and then you could access it and put that into your documents. Oh my, those are the days.
You miss them, don't you?
So good to kind of, you had this raw data, and you had to put a header on the beginning of the data and the end of the data. It says image data, you know, you had to write the PostScript, and then it ran through all the data, end data, and if anything was wrong, of course it blew up. And you don't have a screen to look at it. You do the editing, and then you print it on the very first Apple laser writer, and that was your printing, your screen. And so, edit, print, edit, print, edit, print. Early days. Yes, I'm glad those are gone.
No, what you see is what you get.
Yeah. So then we had Illustrator came out, then Photoshop, then of course the text came out. WYSIWYG text was introduced with a product called ATM, Adobe Type Management, that smoothed out the edges of the text. Boy, all of those developments were brought on. Desktop publishing came out. And life just got better and better. That was big stuff. We just brought up the word typography, I believe, and putting the cursor in there and watching the serifs come together. I think crowds came around. That was a change in everything when that happened, wasn't it? That made desktop publishing really come into play. I appear as Mr. Spock in Tokyo, giving a presentation on Photoshop. I have the phaser and the communicator, and I will beam onto stage. I'm quite proud of this. I have a hula hoop with little tassels, little reflective mylar strips that come down, and so I'll hold it like this, and I'll shake it. It glistens. And then we play the beaming in sound, and I slowly drop I lower the hula hoop and shake it, and as I appear on stage. And then when I go to the audience to pass out prizes and such, I will beam into the audience. I'll beam out of the audience and deliver the gifts, and then beam back to the stage. It'll be great. It'll be great.